that all the commissioners are just going to sleep?
Whatever y'all want.
Oh, I don't know. They just asked me.
Yeah, probably all of them.
All of them.
Everybody. The whole body.
There's extras there.
That's what Miss Kimbrough wants.
All I need to say is.
We're streaming live. Watch the language.
Before we get to the prayer, I've been asked to remind you to try to keep voices down back there. We got the fans going, and they have worked on the air conditioner all afternoon to no avail. So it's not like we just showed up and it's bad. They've been working on it. Evidently, it did not work. And I'd like to remind the county commissioners to actually, when you're speaking, to speak, because the fan noise, we feel like we need the fans, but if we need to, we'll have to cut them off. Okay, and Mr. Bobo has asked that all commissioners, present and future, stay after the meeting.
No,
Is that true? Not you?
the current body.
Just the current body?
Yeah.
We asked you that. You said everybody. Okay, the current body stays after the county commission. Okay. All right. We will now be led in prayer by Commissioner Blackburn.
Before I pray, I want to make comments. I want to take the opportunity tonight to thank this body that I have worked with for the last 4 years and express my appreciation for having the trust in me to be their chaplain and lead them in prayer for the last 4 years. I think it's a blessing. I want to give God the glory for His honor to Him, and I just praise God tonight for His goodness and His grace to all of us. And I have to pray. I ask that you pray for our circuit court clerk, Randall Hawkins, and also remember a member of our commission tonight, Freddie Castle, who is another pastor. As we pray, please remember us. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, tonight for your goodness and grace. Lord, as we assemble here tonight as members of Hawkins County, the state of Tennessee, and our great nation of the USA, I thank you tonight for the freedom we have to gather here. Lord, I thank you for your love and kindness and grace that you have bestowed upon us. I pray tonight as we gather here to conduct the public business of Hawkins County, I pray you give us wisdom, guidance, and understanding. Help us, Lord, to be obedient to your call and your will. Thank you for every office holder. Thank you for those that will be coming on new Thank you for everyone, Lord, that has a part. Lord, we just thank you for your goodness and grace. We ask all these favors in Christ's name. Amen. Amen.
Will now be led in the Commissioner Stacy Hall.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and if you would acknowledge and confirm your presence, please.
We have 19 commissioners present and the county mayor, 1 vacancy and 1 absence.
Let Mr. Phillips to read the conflict of interest statement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Those of you that acknowledge you have a indirect conflict of interest, the name of Jeff Barrett and Greg Fletcher, do you acknowledge that indirect conflict of interest for all purposes and actions of this meeting? I do. Let the record reflect that both have done so.
Okay, we'll move on to office reports. Any official have an office report? Okay, we'll move on to commendation and recognition. I'm going to go first since this is my last meeting with the county mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to be your mayor for the last 8 years. This group of people here are special to me. I've met a lot of people that I wouldn't have opportunity to meet. I've been exposed to a lot of stuff that I would not have been exposed to. Some good, some bad. And we live in a beautiful county. And I want to take this just real quick because we can go on and on and on. And I want to ask the commissioners, present commissioners, they're here right now. I'm going to start with 1 term, 2 terms, 3, and I'm going to just ask you to stand, and if you would, hold your applause to the last. We will recognize, we have 1 special commissioner, Mr. Dwight Carter. He has tenure here, 24 years. Miss Linda is the trooper over here. She's come through all sorts of health issues. Those are the 2 people I'm going to talk about or mention, and then if, I'm going to ask County Commission, if you serve 1 term, 4 years or 2 years or whatever on County Commission, would you stand for that? Okay, 2 terms. You stand. 3 terms. 4 terms. 5. 6. There we are. Let's give him a hand round of applause. To recognize Commissioner Mike Burrell and Commissioner Greg Fletcher.
I know we've got a lot more members of the family here. It's been my privilege to be around them for a long time. By the grace of God, I can get through this. It says, whereas Charlie Newton was first elected as the 7th District County Commissioner on August the 1st, 2002, re-elected in 2006, 2010, and 2014. And whereas over the 16 years Charlie served as commissioner, he was appointed to several committees. He served as chairman of the Solid Waste and Education Committee, as Secretary of Public Buildings and Road Committee, and as a member of the Industrial Delinquent Tax, Beer Board, and Audit Committee. And whereas many times Charlie's sense of humor brought laughter to the meetings at just the right time. And whereas Charlie served the 7th District of Hawkins County with the convictions of his heart. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Commission, that Chairman Mel Bailey, and the Hawkins County Board of Commissioners hereby recognize Charlie Hughes' contributions of faithful service for 16 years to Hawkins County as a 7th District County Commissioner. He will be sorely missed by all. Let's pray. Father, again, I thank you for this family. Father, I thank you for Charlie, for the life he lived. Father, I pray that you watch over Bessie, Benjamin, and the whole family. Father, just comfort them in your way. Father, we thank you that you let Charlie be with us. We thank you that he loves us, and that he loves you. Father, may be with you. In Christ's name we pray.
We had these plaques made up, one for Betsy, one for Dick. And I want to thank Jeff Bobo for letting us use the picture. So we had these made up, and it says, in memory of Commissioner Charlie Newton, with deep appreciation for 16 years of service at the Hawkins County Commission, 2002 to 2018.
Thank you so much. And I want y'all to know, he left politics. He may have had enemies, but in his heart, he had no enemies. He come home fussing about stuff, what you all done, what he believed, what you all believed. But he loved all of you all, he loved politics, and he loved his district and the people of Hawkins County. And we miss him as a family, let me tell you.
Okay, next I will recognize Commissioner Stacy Bowman. Can you get through?
I'll speak to the commission briefly. Everybody that sits on the commission is well aware of the job that Atlanta Roberts has done for the county. This past budget meeting, the budget committee recognized her with the flag. And I want to show my appreciation on behalf of the budget committee and to you guys. And I'd like for Ms. Roberts to come up here with me, and then I want to talk to the crowd here a second. If you just come around this way. Now Atlanta, she's not only one of my county co-workers here, but she's also a dear friend to me that we've really become close over the past several years. When you read the newspaper, you see the media, you see our names, you see the county commissioners' names. Commissioner said this, commissioner did that, commissioner put resolutions in to do that. Well, the commissioners do put their names to it, and they do get their names in the paper for that. But there's a lady behind a lot of stuff that we do, and that is Atlanta. Atlanta has been my go-to person for the past several years for issues, whether it's dealing with airports, public buildings, budget issues. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from any other body or any other employee in the mayor's office, but Atlanta is getting ready to retire after 20 years. She has fought through 20 budgets, ladies and gentlemen, 20 budgets. That deserves way more than any plaque anybody could ever give. done a wonderful job for our county. And she has really been a team player in making things work. I know sometimes she probably regrets ever giving me her cell number. Because it doesn't matter, Friday night, Saturday night, if something hits my mind, I call her and she answers. If she has an answer, she tells me. If not, she calls me Monday morning with an answer. She has worked hard, and there's really no more body deserving than this plaque for her 20 years. And the plaque the Budget Committee gave her says, in recognition of your loyal and dedicated service along with your commitment to making Hawkins County a better place. And she has done just that. She has exemplified what a county employee should be. She has been on our side and your side the whole time. Atlanta, and we thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much.
You sure can. She's normally a lady of very few words, but I'm going to turn her loose now. We may be here a while.
I promise to be very, very short. I just want to say thank you very much. It is very, very hard work when you're recognized for your work, and I appreciate it. I've really enjoyed working with this commission and working with the committees. We formed a good working relationship, and I've made some friends. And I thank you very much for this recognition. It is appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, next I want to recognize Commissioner Rue.
I'd like to recognize one of our constituents, Mr. Dennis Elkins.
I'd like to say good afternoon, and I am Dennis Elkins, the Vice Commander of the American Legion Post 21 here in Rockersville. And I want to extend a special invitation to all the people here, our county commissioners, everyone. We're having a September the 21st at 2 to 4, we're having a POW and MIA recognition service of our POWs and MIAs in Hawkins County. And Bill and I, we've dug up a lot of names, a lot of families, they're going to be there. As of right now, I've got 15 family members and families that's going to be there. I've also got 2 living POWs. One of them's 93, one of them 96. That's going to try to be there. So I want to extend to you this invitation to come and Big River Swimming Service. It is September the 21st from 2 to 4, and we'll be doing refreshments and all. But the point of interest is that our World War II veterans right now, their average age of life right now is 96 years old. So folks, we're not going to have them for very long. And you know, we need to tell them that and recognize them and thank them for what they've done for us. The 2 gentlemen that we've got is POWs for World War II. Mr. John Huff is 96, and Mr. Lawrence Shoemaker is 93. And also our Korean War vets, if you average their age, they're 85. So, you know, folks, we've got to extend to our people that made us and gave you what you got today. You know, your freedom to come here and do everything you've done. And we just want to show a special, you know, interest in those folks and let them know that we love them, we're behind them, and we appreciate what they do. And I appreciate you folks, and God bless you, and God bless America. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, any more recognitions, commendations? Okay, you should have received in the mail a copy of last month's minutes, so I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Fletcher, do we have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Christian. Any discussion? Mr. Christian, we'll do it on the machine, please. No discussion, cast your vote into affirmative vote, please.
19 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, we'll move directly into the resolution packet. First resolution, 2018-0801, introduced by Commissioner Nancy Barber.
To the Honorable Melvin Bailey, Chairman and members of the Hawkins County Budget Commission in regular session, met this 27th day of August, 2018. Resolution in reference approval to establish Hawkins County as the broadband and community. Whereas in 2017, the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee passed the Tennessee Broadband Accessibility Act, which offers great opportunities for companies and cooperatives across the state for establishing broadband connectivity in rural communities. Whereas the Hawkins County recognizes that internet availability is critical to the Hawkins County economy, and whereas the grants are awarded on a point system and local communities that establish themselves as broadband ready community better ensure applicants that they want to provide broadband to the community and that they will receive a greater points needed to be awarded with said grant. And whereas attached are guidelines for becoming the broadband ready community as directed by the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development according to Public Chapter 228 and Tennessee Annotated Code 43709. Also attached is the Hawkins County Broadband Ready Community Policy as per Tennessee 43709. Now therefore be it resolved that the approval be given for the Hawkins County to become a broadband ready community and Hawkins County Broadband Ready Community Policy. I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Barker, second by Commissioner Christie. Any discussion? Okay, if there's none, cast your vote and approve the vote, please.
Yes, 1 absent.
All right, next we have resolution 2018-0802, introduced by Commissioner Darrell Hill.
To the Honorable Melvin Bailey, Chairman and members of the Hawkins County Board of Commission regular sessions, met this 27th day of August 2018. Resolution reference mutual agreement between Hawkins County and Rogers City for the HB Stamps Library Building and the Kenner House. Whereas the HB Stamps Library Building houses the HB Stamps Memorial Library in the Hawkins County Rogers Senior Citizen Center and the Hawkins County Emergency Management Office, of which all benefit the citizens of Hawkins County and the town of Rogersville. And whereas the cost and upkeep and repairs of this property is shared jointly between the two entities. And whereas the attached mutual agreement between Hawkins County and the town of Rogersville defines the responsibility of each of the unkept and repairs, upkeep and repairs of said property. Now therefore be it resolved that the attached mutual agreement for HB Stamps Building and the Kenner House be approved by the Hawkins County Board of Commissioners. Further, the agreement was approved by the Town of Rogersville Board, Mayor and Alderman at their July 2018 meeting. Mr. Mayor, so moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gill, second by Commissioner Christian. Any discussion? Commissioner Brewer.
Do we not already have a mutual agreement on this, or anything correct with that?
You want to address that, Ms. Lynn?
We do have a mutual agreement, but that agreement is almost 40 years old. And so some of the terminology is no longer appropriate for today, and it does not address all of the issues that need to be addressed. And one of the things that we did address in this agreement is the fact that we need to, according to the resolution that was passed on ADA compliance, the city and the county have agreed to come together to make that ADA compliant in those 3 buildings. And so they are taking on 60% of the cost, and the county will take 40% of the cost, and that is drawn out in this agreement.
But we do have an agreement in place right now that's not something that we could look at and let our mayor that's coming on board, maybe sit down with the city mayor and try to work out some things. I mean, I know we've got some issues right now, with the election commission. And I would like to, table this next month, and bring it back next month. Once the think the mayor can sit down with, maybe the city mayor and work some of these issues out, these those out, and make, I make the motion to table this next month.
Okay, I'll recognize, before we consider that, I'll recognize Commissioner Mike Rick.
Do we know how much money this is actually gonna cost on our part, or? Any idea?
It is not known at this time. About 3 or 4 years ago, we did have a quote for that cost. I'm sure it is more now because we did not follow up during this period. We didn't know that this was going to be considered. But about 3 or 4 years ago, we were looking at about $50,000. And it's not just the fact that you're putting in a new door, because the surround of some of those doors has rotted out and it's not conducive to putting in a new door. It's not strong enough. One of the doors is not big enough, so it's gonna have to, you're either gonna have to bring it in or take it out in order to fit in a door that is ADA accessible. And then, of course, you'll have to put in the access door controls so that people can get in and out without actually opening the door. So at that time, it was somewhere near 50,000, not exactly, but somewhere around that number.
Has the city mayor already,
This has already been before the board made an almond, and they have agreed to it.
Mr. Chairman, point
Yeah.
of order, I make a motion.
You did.
Okay.
Yes, you're exactly right. You jumped in.
And that's,
Okay, we're gonna vote
second on
now
that.
to table.
I second that.
and that's supposed to put off all
Yes.
discussion.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Motion
But
made.
now Mike Terrell had already punched in, Mr. Beretta, before me.
Motion been second.
Like just more reason to table it for next month, make sure we find out more about what it's costing.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to table. Now I'm gonna open it up for discussion. Don't hate discussion? Okay, all right. Discussion.
Motion second. Can we recognize Mark DeWitt from Rockville to speak now?
I think once this table,
Yeah,
that's the end of
we
it.
gotta vote.
Hey, Danny.
Yes.
Set it on the sheet,
I've tried
please.
about a dozen times, but
Okay, now, yes is to table, no is to consider.
Eight yes, 11 no, 1 absent.
Okay, now we're back to the resolution, and Mr. Nix, did you, Mr. Vaughn, sorry.
Mr. DeWitt, or Alderman DeWitt, do you have a comment to make on this before we vote on this?
The only comment I'd make, Mr. Vaughn, is that we discussed this at length at the BMA meeting. We are in for 60%, and there's been an agreement in place that's really not been followed through in the past. This has been, in my opinion, adequately discussed between the county and the city before we voted on it at the BMA. I would recommend that you go ahead and pass it.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
Let me ask you one question.
Okay, yes.
Has this cost been taken into consideration in the budget?
We've always had money in the budget to share on the cost for these projects. We're just updating the agreement between the two entities.
Okay, answer my question.
Commissioner Field.
I'm sorry, Ms. Atlanta. I think, did you say 50 is what we, the last was more? I just couldn't hear it because the stuff is,
I'm sorry.
it was 50 was what the last, information that y'all received on what it's gonna cost to do the repairs.
It was estimated at $50,000 at that time. That is labor and materials.
And that's for both parties.
That's for share of that, 60% with the city, 40% with the county. And and that is to take care of 3 doors to make them handicap accessible at the library.
Is there anything else that has come that we know of? Anybody that's looked at Mr. DeWitt, is there anything else that is gonna have to be repaired since this last estimate that's gonna jump the price on up any?
There will have to be some additional repairs. The city's looking at it, and from what I understand, we're gonna shoulder most, if not all of that cost.
I'm just curious, you know, it's just one of the worst things is, you know, going ahead with something and then not knowing the cost beforehand, you know, but if it's been looked at, you know, I mean, we're pretty close already, so I mean, it is what it is. Thanks. Thanks.
I recognize the young lady over here.
I want to know the agreement that you're updating, is it only addressing the ADA compliance, or is it addressing other costs in the future, or is it just this one thing you've mentioned?
This agreement is basically just an agreement between the town and the county. The only reason that we addressed that particular cost is because we're gonna have to deal with that sometime within the next 2 years, according to the resolution that was passed by this county commission for ADA compliance. So that's the only thing. There are other things that we share that I think that this actually refers to, that we continue to share major expenditures. So if there are large capital expenditures like a new roof, painting, new HVAC systems, all of those things are equally shared between the town and the county. So it is mentioned in this document that we do share those capital expenditures equally. Well, since the late 70s or early 80s, it's been that way. And so we've tried to cover all of the areas. The city recorder and myself, the city mayor, and Mayor Bell, we all sat down and looked at this and tried to figure out some things to make this workable for both parties. So we feel like this is a good agreement and addresses the issue.
This resolution is not appropriating any money to do anything, it's just a written agreement.
But that's what I'm saying, so you're talking about the ADA specifically, but as I think it was Mr. Brewer asked, or somebody asked, if this agreement hasn't been upheld for a long time. There should be. That's what I want to understand.
The agreement has been upheld all these years. It's just that there are some things that have not been addressed, like the ADA compliance. The only reason that ADA compliance was addressed in this one is particularly because we are not sharing it equally. We're sharing it at 60/40.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? If there's none, cast your vote and approve the vote, please.
Yes, 3 no, 1 absent.
Okay. Next, we have Resolution 2018-0803, introduced by Commissioner Stacy Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution in reference to approval to apply and accept a courtroom security grant from the Administrative Office of the Courts of the Supreme Court of Tennessee with a 10% local match. Whereas the minimum courtroom security standards have changes, and Hawkins County courtrooms are now in non-compliance with the Administrative Office of the Courts by not having the bulletproof benches in our courtrooms. And whereas the Administrative Office of the Courts of the Supreme Court of Tennessee is offering a courtroom security grant on a local match of 10%. And whereas the grant will be used to bring Hawkins County into compliance with the Administrative Office of the Courts by installing bulletproofing to the judges' benches, as well as add additional detection equipment for the Chancery courtroom in the courthouse, the criminal court circuit, general sessions, and juvenile courtroom at the Justice Center, and the Churchill courtroom used by Hawkins County's court system. And whereas, if approved, the 10% match will come from the general fund, county buildings budget, and from the collected litigation tax. Therefore, be it resolved that approval be given to Hawkins County to apply and accept said grant if awarded, and further that the mayor has authority to sign all related documents. I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn, second by Commissioner Christian. Any discussion? If there's none, cast your vote and confirm your vote, please.
18 yes, 1 absent, 1 abstain.
Okay, next we have resolution 2018-0804, introduced by Commissioner Mark Lincoln.
To the Honorable Neville Bailey, Chairman and members of the Hawkins County Board of Commission in regular session at this 27th day of August. Resolution in reference approval to surplus 3 solid waste roll-off trash trucks and sell them at an auction that proceeds used to purchase 2 new roll-off trucks. Whereas the solid waste community has met and voted to recommend to the Hawkins County Board of Commissioners that the 3 solid waste roll-off trash trucks be declared surplus. Description and quantity are as follows. The quantity 2 of the 2017s, and I think one of them was a 2012 truck we got. Whereas the solid waste committee also voted to recommend to the full commission that the surplus trucks be sold at auction conducted by J.M. Woods Auction Company in Montgomery, Alabama. Now therefore be it resolved that the listed roll-off trucks be declared surplus and be taken to the aforementioned auction company to sell. Net proceeds from the sale be deposited into the solid waste fund number 116 for the purpose of purchasing 2 new roll-off trucks with any remaining funds reserved for future truck purposes. I so move. I'd like to mention one thing before we go to discuss this. Our committee's been working on this for over 4 years now, and we got into this. If we sell these trucks and the commissioners, I hope y'all are listening, that's going to be coming up here and taking our seats. This is something we started that we can take our 2017s we just bought last year, we're taking them to auction, selling them at a guaranteed price that J.M. Woods is going to guarantee us. So we got that price that's guaranteed to us. Anything over that price, we get it with the full amount of it, with 7% of that going back to the auction company. So we get 93% of anything the truck sells for. And I think that's a no-win situation if you do this. I went to one of the auctions, me and the vice chairman, Mike Will, went to the auction down there a couple of years ago, and some of the trucks that they took down there, they got more than what they had sold for the company that sold it. So this is a good thing if we keep it up and continue doing this. I'd like to mention one other thing. We talked about letting our drivers take them down there, but we have to be down 3 drivers while we're doing this. So we're going to try to get worldwide to take our trucks down for us, and they're going to charge us a little bit to take them down there, around $5,000 or something like that's what it's going to $706 per truck. So that's a deal, because if we take them down and they want to break down or something, we have the cost of our men down there driving trucks, plus any other charges that we take us to get them to the auction house. So I want y'all to really think about this. This is something I've worked hard on, and I would really like to see it go through, because this is something that's not only going to help us, but it's helping our community. We don't have repair costs and all this that's going on. So I really appreciate the future commissioners when we set up here next year, and the commissioners that are here now. I appreciate y'all and to keep this going for us, because you can't rent a truck like this and put it for a year and get your money back. I think he's guaranteeing us $300,000, John?
350.
350,000, that's right. So we can buy those 2 trucks, pay for all the cleanup and all that on them and everything, and still have money to go on to those trucks later. So I think it's a good deal. If you don't do this, I mean, we've wasted our time over the past 4 years of putting this in place. So I really appreciate y'all supporting this, and I think it's what's going to help the county in the long run. We don't have to worry about our trucks like we're driving 2012, and it's not a safe truck. Truck drivers and stuff, we're doing this, and it's saving our maintenance and everything. Thank y'all.
All right, let me get it on the floor. We got a motion by Commissioner Lincoln, second by Commissioner Christian, and then the first commissioner to speak is Commissioner Hawkins.
Yes. As a member of this committee, I agree with Chairman Williams. This is a good plan, a good program. And in our last meeting, we were able to decide on an amount. Discussed one offer this, offer that. I'd like to amend this to go ahead and give what J.M. Wood said he would call the free trucks down there.
Mike's on.
It's not J.M. Woods that's taking the trucks down, of course. It's Worldwide. It's a company that works for Worldwide.
Contractor.
It's a contractor, it's gonna make these trucks for us.
Director Freeman, what was the total price that day? Was it $4,500? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
1,500 per truck was the day that we thought, but it's lower now, right? $706 per truck.
I told you they'll negotiate.
Yeah. So, and that's what we had, agreement to do.
Do I need to put this in form of a motion to go ahead?
I think it's covered right here, right? The proceeds and everything we got, I think it's covered right here.
I'm not sure if it is or not.
Well, you don't have to allocate any new money, you already have money.
We already have
to
it
do that.
allocated, yeah.
We just never could have come to agreement on that.
But as long as you have money in the line item for that, you won't have to do anything.
Right. So we're good on this, cause it's cost us less than what we thought, so we're good on this.
Go ahead and follow up on it and get it done.
Commissioner Vaughn.
I just want to say, back when Chairman Lincoln started this, he had got with me as Chairman of the Budget Committee, and we had a joint committee meeting. And you know, some of those things you hear that sometimes it sounds too good to be true. It normally is. But this has been a program that seems to be working out really well for us. And by doing this, you're eliminating so much maintenance and upkeep on these trucks. Some of the trucks that we had were back 06 models and maybe some even older than that at the point we first started this process. And the maintenance per year, if I remember correctly, was up $70,000–$80,000.
It was right around 75,000.
So we're pretty much eliminating the maintenance line item in solid waste by doing this program, and it is a guaranteed program, and you are guaranteed what your trucks are going to do on the back end of the deal. So it seems to be paying off for us now. So I know the budget committee was on board with it, but I just wanted to. It does sound really good, and it is a really good deal for the county. That's all I need.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, if there's none, cast your vote and confirm your vote, please.
Yes, 1 abstain, 1 absent.
Okay, next we have resolution 2018-0805, introduced by Commissioner Mark Lincoln.
To the Honorable Melville Bailey, Chairman and members of the Hawkins County Board of Commissioners, regular session met this 27th day of August 2018. Resolution in reference, approval to accept an agreement with Jim Woods Auction Company for the purpose of auctioning 3 surplus solid waste roll-off trucks. Whereas Jim Woods Auction Company in Montgomery, Alabama is an auction company that auctions commercial vehicles and guarantees a dollar amount minus a commission fee of 70% absolute of the gross sale. And whereas the Solid Waste Department has 3 surplus roll-off trash trucks to take to auction as listed. 2 2017 Max GU7 13, VIN numbers 1 M2 AX04 C7 HM 034201. Y'all can read the list of those. We can go on, still have to read all of them. Whereas a contract is attached for the aforementioned auction company, therefore be it resolved that the approval be given for Jim Woods to sell the surplus trash trucks and the county mayor to be authorized to sign said contract and
related documents. Further be it resolved that the proceeds from the sale of the 3 trash trucks be deposited into the solid waste fund number 116 for the purpose of purchasing 2 new roll-off trucks and any remaining funds reserved for future truck purchases. I so move.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lincoln, second by Commissioner Christian. Any discussion on this? Commissioner Barrett.
I got a couple of questions, Commissioner Lincoln. Questions I've got, the first question, which y'all give a little leeway here, but did somebody from this company actually come up and look at these trucks?
Yes, they did. Jam Woods came out. We had a guy from Worldwide here with me and another guy from Worldwide. They all came back, looked at it. He has to come up and look at the trucks because he's giving us a guaranteed price on that truck when he looks at it. He's going to tell us how much that he's going to make sure we get. He got, what was it, 140,000. He guaranteed us that when we drive that on his lot, we're guaranteed that 140,000. If it comes, if the auction goes and it comes over that 140,000, we still get 93% of it. So whatever the total auction is, we're getting 93% of it with that guarantee of that 350,000 for these 3 trucks. So with whatever else is over there, we're getting 93% of it. They're getting 70% of it.
Okay. Reason I'm curious about it, I was looking over the conditions and guarantee.
Yeah.
And it reads basically that there's no hydraulic leaks, no power steering leaks, tread patches up, 60% of tread, no broken windows, no broken glass, everything works, radios work, and all that. So he's good with that.
Yes. And we got, I mean, that's what we got set aside too. And for the money that the fix up and everything like that, if something happens, we gotta fix something, we've got money in that account to fix it before we pay on it, before it goes up for auction.
Okay.
But once it gets on that lot, then we're guaranteed $350,000.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner
Oh,
Grove.
let me go, Charlie, come up.
Okay.
I recognize him.
I'd like to say something real quick. Jeff, that is 40,000 miles is our guideline. That's, they don't want us
I
to
think
go
it
over
was
that.
45,000 this year. I think it's what it is.
So we have some qualifications, do's and don'ts we have to follow.
You might have to come here, Charlie, but they can't do it.
Met the conditions.
Both of our 17 miles. Both of those trucks are going to be down there about 65 miles. The representative from J.M. Richmond up here looked at these trucks and he said our company's representative will do it cheaper. I will Jeff Beck taking good care of these trucks. 12 trucks, they offered us $80,000. The reason for this is that when they sell these trucks like this, without body, without union, we don't have to pay out their taxes. The county does not have to pay. But the individual companies, they have to pay about 15% tax since they buy. If they're buying from zero new auction company, hopefully they'll be used, they don't have to pay that tax. So that's one of the reasons for it. Yes, we went down there. I got Earl Russell, thank you for the budget. I said, not today. I think it's going on. They take the rooms. All of the food, all of the way down there to the back. And they also told me that if we take these trucks down there, that they would pay my taxes. I checked with different counties, not in Tennessee, but it's going to be in Virginia, they'll go to Kentucky. I called them, got to look at that, and listen, they have actually made one. I'm not saying it will make it. We'll guarantee $140,000 for a truck. Use it up 7% from that, for the sale. It's still good to go out and we can't drive a truck for years, but $50,000. First year that I took this job over, maintenance on that truck was $72,000. Well, today, maintenance on that truck right now is that's a saving of $60,000.
You do have a good supervisor, Jeff Holmes, being over these trucks and drivers, Jeff takes pride in his work.
So I hope to well, that's good.
Commissioner Brewer.
Based on our answer question, I will back that, there is, number 7 day on the condition guarantee. Talks about, charge, cleaning up people. You got any idea how much that's gonna cost?
It's around 5,000.
No, it won't be that.
It won't be that much, but I think that's what we got. We had so much on our plan for
The solid waste committee also filed a commercial statement working for that purpose. Jeff Owens has access to it. Jeff is gonna see the trucks, they won't shake,
They still require cleanup when they get to the office. They'll do some cleanup work now.
That's what that company's gonna do for that price we were paying.
Commissioner Ellis.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Any other discussion? If there's none, cast your vote and confirm your vote, please.
Yes, 1 absent.
All right, next we have resolution 2018-0806, introduced by Commissioner Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is reference to fixing the tax levy for the 2018-19 fiscal year. Be it resolved that the attached resolution be considered fixing the tax levy at 2.5323 per $100 taxable property. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn, we have a second by Commissioner Christian. Now we'll open that for discussion. Commissioner Mills.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the tax levy to put the general debt service fund back to the .08. And if I get a second, I'll explain that.
I'll second that.
Okay, wait a minute, hold up. General debt service. Okay, so, .07 to .08. Oh, .01.
Put it back to .08. Currently .01. I'm moving to amend that it go back to .08 like it was in 2017-2018 fiscal year.
Okay. All right. On certified tax rate, we have an amendment, request for an amendment, to move the general debt service from .01 to .08, which was in the 2017-18 budget, or tax levy.
Basically, his amendments to make it reflect same as it was in the previous.
Okay. Can we have a second?
I'll say, hang on just a minute, we will no vote this because of our motions. It's just second.
She said no vote this one.
We've already. I did.
You already done it?
Okay, now whoever seconded can go ahead. Am I correct? Okay, thanks.
Okay, second by Commissioner Gray. Okay, any discussion before we vote? We're voting to amend from .01 to .08.
What are you changing? And what are you changing?
But basically, if you're talking about, John, from the sale of the spec building that went back to debt service,
Do you mind if I speak?
yes, sure.
Here's my rationale behind this. When we take the 7 cents away from the general debt service fund, if you look in section 4, it says the tax rate sufficient for retiring, the remaining outstanding debt must be reallocated to the general debt service fund in subsequent years. So at some point, you're going to have to put that money back, just like in 2015-16, we removed the 5 cents from the education debt service fund, and the commitment was made to the Board of Education in that agreement was that that money would be put back. So we're still looking at potentially putting that back. So if we pass this, then we're potentially looking at putting that 7 cents back, which equates to about $1.2 million.
Can I address that for just 1 second?
Yes, sir.
What we had done with the sale of the spec building and the money rolling back into the debt service, I got with our auditors, with the county audit, and if you'll look, you'll see the general capital projects. We didn't have a general capital projects fund. What we were looking at doing, every time we needed to buy sheriff patrol cars, we needed to put a roof on a building, any capital project we had to do, we had to scrape and find that money from a general fund. And we find ourselves constantly pulling out of our unassigned fund balance. So with the sale of that building, we had $700-some thousand that went back to debt service. It couldn't go to any other fund but debt service. So I worked with our auditors on the best way to procure that money to find or to pay our way with some of these capital projects that we have going on. We could have taken a note against, but the cheapest and easiest way to do it was to redirect tax pennies. Now and the audit told us, and Eric can speak to this a little more, this is only a 1-year thing. You cannot keep that 7 cents out of debt service but 1 year. When you do the 1920 budget, that 7 cents has to revert back to or as audit put it, you have to put back, like what Commissioner Meck said, what's in there sufficient to retire the debt. By moving the 7 cents for this 1 year, you have enough funds that are sufficient to operate this year and pay your debt payments with debt service for this year. However, next year you may not have that in 7 cents. So you may either have to put all 7 back, or it may only require 5 back, and you can leave 2 pennies in capital projects. The purpose behind it was to have your capital projects fund grow. So I know we're going to have to purchase sheriff patrol cars. I know we've got a grinder issue we were mandated to put in below the Justice Center. We have a roof we have to put on. Where we got to put that roof on, man? I done forgot.
Health department.
At the health department. So this capital projects fund, without touching our savings, our unassigned fund balance, and our other funds, we were using the funds from the sale of that spec building by redirecting pennies. But however, like I said, this has to be a 1-year thing. You cannot continually leave 7 pennies in there. And like county audit recommended, they said, this is the best way to utilize that money to fund the capital purchases and projects for this year. Next year, you may have to put it all back, or he recommended what you didn't have to put back to leave in capital projects and let your capital projects fund build. We've never had a capital projects fund in the past. We've always used unassigned fund balance. what happens when you use unassigned fund balance all the time? Your funds drop, your money drops, and then you end up having to impose some sort of tax. This is just a better way, in my opinion, the budget committees and the commission that worked to put the budget together was all made aware of this, and they were all made aware that these pennies had to go back at the end of this year. This was just a way to utilize those funds to make these capital projects purchases for this year.
Here's my concern. I'm just gonna be completely honest. If I'm wrong, just tell me that I'm wrong. And I won't have any hard feelings towards anybody wrong. If you go back to 2017, 2018 fund balance, you were able to remove .0402 from the general purpose school fund, which was $400,781. That was due to reduction of BUP. Then we had the $30 wheel tax that generated $1,081,233 according to what's in the budget. And then the $10 portion generated $360,411. Those three items totaled $1.42 million. And then you go into 2018 to get the fund balance. You're taking 2 cents from general purpose school fund, .0146 from school transportation fund, and then the 07 from the general debt service fund. But it's not going to general fund, it's going to your special account, $697,877. $30 wheel tax projection, $1.34 million, $10 portion, $450,000. Now, if you just take the general purpose school fund, transportation fund, and the wheel tax of $2.14 million, the BUP reduction is $344,951. And then you go into the fact that in Eric's notes, it says CCAS recommends that the general fund unassigned balance should be at least 18 to 20% of the total budget expenditures, which are $17,951,369. So if you burn cash to pay for what you're moving this debt service out of, if you burn that cash, you're still at 19% unassigned fund balance. So
that's how we have the estimated unassigned fund balance of $4 million. This body instructed the budget committee to grow the fund balance. That's what we've done.
But I understand growing the fund balance, and don't take offense, but if I was going out to county commission, I would love this. I would say I left you guys with $4.2 million fund balance. Next year, when you have to come up with working towards trying to replenish that 5 cents that you promised the BOE you would put back, and then the 7 cents that you're taking out here, where's it going to come from? And it's, I realize that part of this is 6 more, half a dozen days. You're just moving, it's a shell game, but at some point you run out of table room. And this next commission is out of table room.
Well, I just want to back up. I didn't just come in here after the election and throw this together. This is not Stacey Vaughn's put together. This is the full commission that worked on putting the budget together, or the ones that showed up putting the budget together did this. My name is attached to it to present it to them.
Stacey, I understand that. I certainly do. And then you go back when we took that 5 cents out for capital expenditures with the school funds. Last year, according to state audit, they were $173,000 in the red. So by pulling that 5 cents back, they're already starting to have to pull out the fund balance.
But you can't use these pennies to go to repay the BOE, because these tax pennies are only a 1 year.
Oh, I realize that, but I'm talking about the 5 cents that was taken out in 2015-16, that's going to have to be put back. It's just a shell game. I mean, basically it is, and that's how you do a budget, especially when it comes together.
When we went to working on this and the spec building sold, we wanted to utilize that money to make these capital projects because we knew it would be a one-time thing. And then that's how the capital projects fund was put together. At the end of the year, those funds have to go back to retire the debt from debt service. Now, we could have done that, or we could have borrowed against ourselves to do it. All it said was do
Right. As long as county commission next year and subsequent years agrees to move back
Well, you have no choice. County audit says you have to have pennies in there to fund that.
Right, okay.
And we have that
Where's
in
it
there.
gonna come?
We have that in there.
Some other areas, no, some.
Mr.
I call for question on this amendment. We need to vote on it, vote it up or down.
All right, any objection?
One way or another, we have to do these capital projects. 'Cause we're being
I agree,
forced.
Bernie, you can't go, if they have to be done, spend the cash, because you're still at 19%, which CPAS says that you have to have. Now, it's gonna put subsequent budgets in a little bit of a pinch.
I'm not following you on that. It's just using sale that 700 and some thousand. It's moving that from one fund to another.
Point of order, questions been got.
Okay, yeah. All right, we're gonna vote on the amendment to move it from. Okay. He says to move it to the general debt service. Make it back to 2017-18. So yes is to do it, no is to leave it.
What, where's this, what's changing in there other than that? So we're raising the tax levy to do that?
You're still operating at 2.53. It's just how you shuffle the 2.53.
You got general capital projects, technically, is that what you're doing away with? That's what you would be doing away with, by moving it up into general debt service. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, all right. Yes is to change it back, do away with general capital projects, the 7 cents there, move it back up into general debt service.
Yes.
No is to, no is to leave it the same.
Yes.
Leave it as is. Yeah.
Let me understand. Yes vote is what?
Yes is to move it back.
No is to leave it like it is in the resolution.
Ten yes, 9 no, 1 absent.
It fell, so we're back to 2.53 as presented. Okay, any other discussion before we vote on this certified tax rate?
I'd like to recognize that.
I have a question, since there's so much confusion and contention, does this have to be done right now, or is this something that can be tabled for the next commission to handle?
We've worked on this we've worked on this since April. It's nothing new to the commission. It shouldn't be confusing to any of them.
Okay, we're ready to vote? Girls ready? Everybody ready? Okay, cast your vote and confirm your vote.
Yes, 6 no, 1 absent.
All right. Actually, okay, next we have Resolution 2018-0807, introduced by Commissioner Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolution references making appropriations to nonprofit charitable organization of Hawkins County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019. Whereas Section 59109 TCA authorizes the county legislative body to make appropriations to nonprofit charitable organizations. Whereas the Hawkins County Board of Commissioners recognizes the various nonprofit or charitable organizations located in Hawkins County have great need of funds to carry on their nonprofit charitable work. Whereas funds shall herein be appropriated to promote the general and public welfare and to protect the citizens of Hawkins County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Hawkins County on this 23rd day July. Anyway, put the correct date in there, mark that out. Appropriate funds are as follows. See attached list. Be it further resolved that all appropriations enumerated in sections 1 through 9 on the attached listings are subject to the following conditions. That the nonprofit charitable organizations to which funds are appropriated shall file with the county mayor's office and clerk a copy of an annual report of its business affairs and transactions and the proposed use of the county's funds in accordance with the rules promulgated by the Comptroller of Treasury. Such annual report shall be prepared and certified by the chief financial officer of such nonprofit organization according to TCA 59109C. That said funds must only be used by the named nonprofit charitable organization for furtherance of their nonprofit charitable purpose benefiting the general welfare of the residents of the county. That it is the expressed interest of the County Commission of Hawkins County providing these funds to the nonprofit charitable organization on the attached listing to be fully in compliance with the rules of the Comptroller of Treasury and section 59109 of TCA and any and all other laws which may apply to county appropriations to nonprofit organizations, so this appropriation is made subject to the compliance with any and all of these laws and regulations. Be it further resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Vaughn, second. Second by Commissioner Christian. Discussion. If there's not any discussion, cast your vote and confirm your vote, please.
Yes, 1 absent.
Okay, next we have resolution 2018-0808, introduced by Commissioner Stacy Lane.
Resolution reference approval appropriations for 2018-2019 fiscal year budget. Be it resolved that the attached resolution be passed making appropriations of various funds of Hawkins County as per the attached budget documents. Now, note the salary line items of the attached general fund and solid waste fund budgets include a 2% COLA raise for those employees whose salaries are determined by the salary scale by grade pay scale adopted by County Commission on 9/22/14. The proposed additional 2% raise for those particular employees will only be appropriated in this document by an amendment to this resolution before or with approval of this resolution. And you can see page 31 in the general fund, page 35 in solid waste, to the reference to the cost of such increase, including appropriate employer matching benefits and or the fixed charges. Should the additional increase take place, the appropriate documents will be updated, filed with the county clerk, and mailed to the commission. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn. Second by Commissioner Palmer. Commissioner McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call your attention to pages 31 and 35 in this document. There is an amendment here on the, let me tell you this, we've got 1,425 employees, and this affects 92 of those employees. This 55,000 on page 31, I want to move that we amend this budget. On page 31, I move that we amend the budget to include the 55,000. And on page 35, I move to amend the budget to include the 11,260. And if I get a second, I'll talk about it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner McLean, second by
I'm gonna have to go through this.
Commissioner Lincoln. Oh, that just be, let's get caught up.
Actually, but before he makes that amendment, can I speak? But Joe, on your amendment, you're proposing to go ahead with what Commissioner Allen's recommended in the budget hearings, which was go ahead and include that extra 2% to the ones that are not, that haven't currently got anything on the pay scale. Would you care to make that amendment to reflect the whole 4% and as raising the entire scale up to 4% and not just the employees? So that, because the scale hasn't grown since it's been implemented, in whatever year it was, 14, would you have a problem with amending it so the scale, that way it's not going to get off market value if it keeps going like it is?
So you want to change the scale?
No, you're going to increase the scale by the 4%.
But you're not going to change the scale.
Well, it'll change 4%. If
The
there's,
scale won't.
yes, you'll increase the beginning of the scale will increase 4%.
Okay, that's a little different from what I was gonna propose.
Eric, you want to touch on that a little bit?
What he's referencing is the COLA has never affected the pay scale, for instance, like it has in the sheriff's budget. So what he's proposing is that the COLA increase will be reflected on the salary scale.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
That changed the numbers.
No, the numbers will be the
Numbers will
same.
stay the same.
Numbers stay the same.
Right,
Just a different way of saying it.
okay. So
You're
that
still
again-
giving the employees the 4%, but instead of applying it to each individual employee, you're applying the 4% to the whole scale, which brings their scale up 4%. So if they get, let's say they get moved to midpoint, well, if they get a 4% raise, midpoint might be lower than what you've done giving them a 4% raise. So when you apply 4% to the entire scale, you bring everything up equally. So if they move, if they move to midpoint, or move grades, you applied the percentage across the scale.
But you can change the scale and not change an employee's salary. You have to give the employee that
If
4%.
no, if an employee is on that scale at $30,000 and you add 4% to that scale, that employee comes up 4%.
What if they're not at 30,000?
Well, I just use 30,000 as a number.
Okay, so they, on what you're proposing, they would get 4%.
Basically, we're doing it the way we've done the sheriff's pay scale every year. When we give raises, it goes to his scale, and it brings the scale up. So if that employee's on step 5 on that scale, and you add 2% to that scale, that employee gets a 2% raise, because you just raised his scale 2%. What I'm trying to do is increase this pay scale by 4% because it's set stagnant since 2014. It has no COLAs have been applied to the pay scale.
Right.
So if you add 4% to the overall pay scale, it then adds to the employee on that pay scale, it raises their pay that 4%.
All right, that's kind of a separate issue, but that's fine to do it that way. So I'll make that,
Well, hey, John, for you, can I say something for you? If you're between a starting and a Q1, I don't have that scale with me. Or if you're let's say you're between a midpoint and a Q3. And so you make midpoint is 16.6, Q3 is 18.2. If you raise this scale up, that don't necessarily mean that you're gonna come up 3% or 4% or whatever. If you're gonna do that, I'd do 2 separate deals. I would, if you're gonna adjust the scale, if you're gonna say fire market, if you go 4%, they've already had a COLA increase of what, 2% since this has been adopted in 4 years. So if you're going to amend the scale to bring it up to fire market price, then amend it to the 6% or whatever increase has been put in there since it was adopted. Then turn around and give each employee a 4% regardless of how they fall in this scale. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does to me.
Because this scale is, you well know, it's a mess. But if you're gonna go with fire market, they've already missed out. In other words, right now, if I go to hire a pay grade 5 in my office, the most I can pay them is $19,452. Well, that scale's no good because that was from 4 years ago. It's already been, the cost of living has already bumped up, what, 2% or 4% or whatever it is. Does that make any sense? So that needs to be added to that. Otherwise, your people that's starting out or your office holders are trying to hire people at salaries that were at fire market 4 years ago, going into this budget year would be 5 years ago, but the pay scale that you're trying to hire on doesn't reflect that. So as an office holder, or as the assessor, I'm not gonna speak for the rest of the office holders, but I'd rather you see you do it in 2 different ways. And if you're gonna bump the scale, then also turn around separately and bump the employees 4% or whatever.
I guess I'm not following on that. If you have a $20,000 a year employee and you bump that pay scale up 4%, that's $800 more a year. So whether you give that $800 4% to that employee or you add it to that employee's pay scale, you still give that employee a 4% raise. So I'm not following you on that.
What
I
he's
guess
saying
maybe I'm
though
not
is
understanding.
4% is cost of living adjustments that have not been added to the scale for the last 4 years, now 5 years. So you're not giving them a raise, you're giving them a cost of living adjustment.
So y'all are wanting
Where they should have been anyway.
to raise the scale 4% and then give a 4% raise? Was that what it is?
No, that's not what he's saying at all. He's saying give the employees, these 92 employees, give them this year a 4% raise, 2% cost of living, and an additional 2% for the past 4 years that we've not adjusted. Then if you wanna go back separately and adjust the scale, then adjust the scale. But that would be for next year, it wouldn't be for this year.
So you're saying add an overall 4 or 6% to the scale, doesn't give that employee a 4 or 6% raise?
No, not necessarily, it doesn't.
Hey, I've tried to request to speak for the woman.
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
Yeah. Commissioner
You
Brewer's
can
been trying
talk to any of these girls out here, I reckon if some of them's been at the same pay scale for years, 30, some of them's not got a raise since they've been here hardly. And Atlanta was one of them, and there's a couple up in the juvenile office, the same way, they're not getting. This scale that we got with Larry Russell, it's no good. It needs to be done away with and start over and give these people the cost of living raise when we can. Because this is totally bull. This whole scale that we're under right now ain't doing these people a bit of good.
You know, it's not a
deserve
good
it.
scale when you hire somebody and you tell them you're gonna make 23, like I'm gonna use Jeff's line, he said, you hire somebody today, you tell them you're gonna make $23,000, and they say, well, what am I gonna make 5 years down the road? And you say, well, you're gonna make $23,000.
And it's a shame.
That's not a good scale.
And it's a shame that they hire somebody off the street making the same as some of these girls that's worked for 10 or 20 years. It's not right. This scale is.
Can I recognize Jim Shank?
Jim.
Talking about the raise, you guys talked about doing a 2% cost of living adjustment. And you hit it on the head, it was a 2% on top of that, that's what we had discussed. And also, Mr. Thacker's correct, the scale needs to be adjusted. To keep it simple, where we can understand it, maybe it would be best to do one thing at a time like he just described to you. Right. Yeah, and he said it right on the head, when we try to bring somebody new in, it's not gonna be reflected on the scale. But I know what you're trying to do is the 2% cost of living and then bump the scale or bump the pay 2%. Right. So, that just kind of makes it simpler. And then there's more than that wrong with the salary scale. I think we all agree with that. We worked on it. And there's no way we have time tonight.
Yeah, but anytime that you bump a salary scale, or give a cost of living adjustment, that scale should bump with it. If you go 2%.
That's what I was wanting to happen.
Yeah, if they make 20,000 and you give a 2% COLA raise, then that scale should reflect 20,400. All right. Then there's been 2 months in this scale in the last 5 years, or I'm gonna say 5 years because we're in an 18-19 budget year. One of them was in the 15-16 year, and that was for 2.5%. There was another one in 16-17 for 2%. All right. Now you're at 4.5%. That this scale doesn't reflect that it never was but 4.5%. So now you're talking about giving a 4%. So if you don't bump this scale is actually gonna be 8.5% behind what you're saying is market value. So when you go to hire somebody in these jobs and regardless of what people wanna think, these jobs do not pay what people think they pay. The most of them will qualify, for food stamps and tax relief. But when you go to hire somebody and you're hiring off a scale that's already 8% behind, well, they can go anywhere. And you can't, so, y'all follow where I'm going with it? The scale right now, as you're looking at, is already 4.5% behind. Because it wasn't burned when them employees got the 2.5% and then the 2%. So if you're gonna go 4%, then the scale actually, to reflect fair market, ought to be about 8.5%. If you wanna bring it to fair market, then turn around and give the employees a 4% in two separate deals. And you all know, pay scale's a mess. I mean, it needs to be revamped.
I think we'll just give the 4% tonight, and the new commission come on with the new mayor, let them work on the new pay scale, because this one needs to go.
Well, the thing, it won't be dealt with, that's the thing.
Well, it needs to be there.
This is gonna be a scale, but it's gonna be maintained. We talked about in one of the budget meetings that you guys was gonna sit down and try to figure this out.
Well, we've already done that. I mean, it's.
But I mean, we was gonna talk about getting the pay scale straightened out completely instead of more or less half doing it, I guess you could say.
What's been half done?
Well, I mean, it ain't fixed.
But because you all won't vote to fix it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, we have learned, me and Jim Sachs have got countless hires into this pay scale of fixing it. And the numbers are straight off of the scale that you adopted in 2014. Now, we sat down and put all the numbers together in a set scale, all the way down to you all wanted policy. We sat down, we created a policy, and guys, we've done our part, but we can't vote it in, that's your job. So to come back and say, you all fixed it, we fixed it, but we can't make you vote for it. But when the scale's 10% behind, or 8% behind, then actually, it's gonna cost money to bring it up to scale if you go and draw a new scale to that. I mean, that's just new inflation. So to sit here and say that, why didn't you fix it? We have. Now vote on it. I mean, you know what we presented to you all over. Don't sit here and say we done nothing to fix it. Because we submitted a pay scale along with everything you all asked for. So that's.
But now, Jeff, the cost associated with the pay scale you sent was how much, Eric? Was one of them $600,000? One of them was $600,000 to implement one of the pay scales you brought to them, and then the other one was $400,000. So that is reoccurring expenses.
Basically, I didn't just stream these numbers up, but it all comes straight off the pay scale. And that you all paid Larry Russell, who's supposed to be the professional. I have no idea what we paid him, but all the numbers come straight off of that scale that you all paid to have done. It ain't like we sit down and pull them out of the air. So
I think the biggest issue was that putting the budget together, and then Mr. Shanks, some of them have to come back. So let's go to October and look at having a personnel meeting.
That is basically what we discussed.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah, he's waiting for
I've been trying to push my
Shanks, I know.
Ron Shanks has got the floor.
All right.
I'm fine.
You know,
Go ahead, Mr. Shanks.
I promise you,
Mr. Shanks still has the floor. Well, go ahead.
I didn't say.
I'm fine with that.
Are you through?
All I was gonna say is.
Come on back over here.
No, that's what we discussed.
I can wait a while.
In the personnel committee, that's what we discussed, is pretty much what Commissioner Vaughn just said. It's not feasible to try to implement a complete new salary scale right now. We brought it up early in the process, hoping to be made a priority. The money wasn't there. I'm gonna say we, but I as an office holder, I can tell you, it was too late. So we suggested a 4% raise. 2% COLA, and then a 2% bump in their pay for the people who are not on scale. That's pretty much what we had discussed. In that discussion, it was brought up, the scale also needs to be moved up that that percentage as well. Now, whether that's done tonight or done with the next commission or whatever, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the salary scale that we can't do tonight. We've worked on it for months and months and it's not there. And we don't have the funding to do it. So what we were asking was for the cost of living adjustment, which for all practical purposes is not a raise, and 2% on top of it. That was our request, and I think that's what Mr. McLean Commissioner McLean was trying to get across, not to muddy it up. You know, it's just getting all muddy, it's convoluted now.
I just don't want to see the pay scale set without growing. Because then you're gonna come back 5-6 years down the road, and you are gonna be forking out $600,000 to bring people back up to market value. So if we don't grow it as we go, with what little we have, we're gonna be behind like we were.
I understand that, but that's all.
I appreciate you.
Okay, now wait a minute, before we get to Commissioner Brewer, he's gonna get to speak, I promise. Ms. Nancy wants everybody to vote no.
Just
Right
vote
there.
no, so we
No.
can clear out this screen, please.
And then we can get on here where we can recognize people.
Doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
Means nothing. Just to clear our computer. Thank you.
Now, Commissioner Brewer.
I want to, I'm trying to understand this. It's 4% we're talking about. It's for the Larry Russell employees only.
Yes, 92 employees.
Okay, and it's done been stated, and I already stated, because I talked to, Mr. Shanks, and I talked to Randy Collier. I apologize, Jeff, for not talking to you and Nancy, but, I think y'all agree with what I got to say. You know, it's done been stated, and we done know that these employees have been neglected, their pay increase has been neglected for years. 4%, it's not gonna kill us, I don't reckon, in this budget. The only thing that I regret is, the taxpayers, they, you know, they didn't get the raise either, but, you know, these employees has waited and waited and waited. And I promise you that this needs to be done. And then, when this new commission comes on board, and their new mayor, I agree with Mr. Lincoln. We need to look at doing away with this completely and starting over. Because it's not worked in the past, and if you've not got something to make it work, it's gonna do the same thing again.
That's exactly.
And, you know, we need to look at something different that's where that it's not going to get in this shape again. And I agree with Joe, and I'll support that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrett.
Well, I believe basically back, a couple months back, when we were talking about this, salary schedule and pay scale and stuff, I believe basically that the gentleman's agreement basically was that we would look at it in October. And I think with the new group coming on, you know, I don't wanna tie them down to it, but I think the agreement was that we look at it in October. So I still think we need to look at it. Hopefully, if we look at October. But I do think these people need an increase. Yeah. Thanks.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Well, for one thing, the commission has not kept up its part of the agreement when they passed the pay scale to begin with, the Larry Russell. When it was presented, it was passed, Larry clearly stated that it needed to be reviewed every 4 or so years, and that the way to maintain the scale was by adding some percentages every year, and we have not done that. And I think a lot of it has got to do with the financial issues that the county faced last year. And we kind of put that on the back burner, but we haven't upheld as a commission what we were supposed to do to maintain that pay scale. With that being said, this lady over here had her hand up a while ago.
I just was asking for clarification, so you're still discussing the original motion to do the 2 plus 2% for those 92 people, correct?
Yeah,
That's the
amended.
original motion.
He voted to.
He wanted to add 2%, right? It was
He made a
originally
motion to
2%.
amend.
Okay, so that failed.
We've not voted on that
So
yet.
we're back to the original 2% motion?
We're still talking about the first amendment he made at 4% altogether.
Okay, I thought that's what you voted no on. Okay, so he wants to add 2% for those 92 people and address the pay scale at another time, correct?
Correct.
That's where we are currently.
This 2%, total 4% was discussed through the budget process and it was passed with the figures, through the budget.
Okay, so what you're discussing
Here.
is you would like for somebody to amend the motion to adjust the pay scale currently.
No, I understand what he's doing now. He's wanting to put 2% to the overall pay scale and 2% to the current employees that are on the pay scale now.
So
I'm just not wanting the pay scale to still set where it was in 2014 or 15, whenever it was.
Okay, clarified, thank you.
I just wanted to see that something be tied to that for this budget.
So let me, and I might go with that, let me see if I understand exactly what you're saying. If the these 92 employees get 4% added to their current salary, and the scale get bumped 4% also, is that what you're asking?
No.
Only 2, scale would get bumped.
Now, I was looking at it as bumping the whole scale 4%, but the way Jeff Thacker's explaining that doesn't give the employees a 4% raise.
Yeah, I think there's something to miss out on that if you only move the scale.
But if you're on that, wherever you're at on that scale, everything gets moved 4%, I'm not sure how they could be left out of it.
Stacy,
Am I missing something?
I think the concern is not everybody is sitting perfectly on one of those points on the scale.
Right, but wherever they're sitting, they will get a 4% raise.
If we don't, we need to be very careful in the word, because if we don't word it properly, it's not gonna happen that way. So there needs to be a 2%.
I would like to have it where the entire scale gets the 4% bump, and every employee that's on that scale, wherever they're at on that scale, receives that 4%.
Doesn't that make the 92 people still 2% below that, or 4% below everybody else? 4%. I mean, that means to me that needs to be addressed at a different time.
I'm just going by 4% is what the motion was. That's the figures I'm going by.
But you understand what I'm saying, market rates need to be looked at to make sure that the scale is adjusted, because 4% may not be enough, and then you're gonna come and look at it again, and try to figure it out again, so.
You want to talk?
I think Mr. McLean's concern, Mr. Vaughn, was that, you know, they don't rest perfectly in a certain spot, midpoint, Q1, midpoint, that they're gonna miss that 4% bump. So when he said to do 2 separate resolutions, 2 separate amendments, that way everybody would come out. You would get the 4% for sure for each employee.
Okay, all right, we're getting too loud.
To benefit.
I'm with you on that, Jeff, or not Jeff. What is your name, Joe?
And then,
Joe,
if you bump the scale, it'll benefit any new hires who would come down the road.
Yes.
They would be able to receive it as well.
Okay, Eric, let me ask you, is everybody of these 92, are they somewhere in one of these quartiles?
Landed exactly, no.
See, that's what I'm afraid of.
Right, I understand.
If they're in between quartiles and you only change the scale, they don't get a bump.
But if they're in between court, whatever that was, they're still on the scale. So if you add 4% to that scale, if they're in between, they should still get a 4% raise wherever they're at.
Everybody on the scale.
Everybody that's on there should get 4%.
Are you doing the 2, exactly the 2?
Everybody that's on that, whatever that salary pay
So
scale.
it's still gonna keep us within our 55,000.
As long as we don't give anybody more than 4% raise, we're gonna stay within the numbers. We just need to be careful about it.
Everybody, yeah.
We're gonna depend on you to work. Because I don't want us to pass 55,000 have to come up with 300. I'm for everybody gets Okay, all right, I don't know exactly where we're at. Joe, are you still with us?
Okay, I'd be willing to amend it like this. Of these 92 employees, they will get a 4% pay raise.
and lumps the scale 4%.
That's a total of 8.
No, they wouldn't get 8.
Mr. McLean,
No.
Mr. McLean,
That's why it needs to be done
an
separately.
additional 2%, because 2% is already in here.
Okay.
An additional 2% so that it equals 4%.
Yes.
2% is already built in. An additional 2% to equal 4%.
It's not built into the scale, is it?
No, it's built into the budget.
They're gonna
Built
deal
in
with
for
the
the
scale some
employee.
other time.
Let's just put the scale aside.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll amend to give these employees a total of 4%, 2 plus 2.
And I will say, we already get
Of the 92 that's on there,
Of
correct?
these 92 employees
And
who
then
are on the
everybody else gets 2%, is that correct? Is that what we're saying?
It's an additional 2.
2% already-
All
2% been approved.
2%'s already in
All
there.
1,425 people are getting a 2%. These 92 would get an additional 2.
You understand that, Mason?
We got that?
We've got 2% currently built into the budget that is before the commission now, and this is to increase the 92 employees in the general fund and the solid waste by an additional 2%.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. For a total of $55,008, is that correct?
I would add in the wording, those on the Larry Russell pay by grade scale, just for clarity.
Okay. And then the solid waste, is that?
Solid waste is on the same scale, so that will cover them.
$55,006, and solid waste is $11,260.
So is that giving solid waste a 4%?
An additional 2 would catch solid waste as well.
Additional
All right,
2.
okay. All right.
Motion and second.
Okay, we got a motion to amend, and let me hopefully hear that the 2% is already in there for,
He's not messing with that.
not
He's
messing with
giving
that.
an additional
He's giving an additional 2% for the people who are on the Larry Russell scale, which includes solid waste. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that means that the solid waste people will have a total of 4%.
When it's all said and done.
When it's all said and done, 2's already in there, gonna give them an additional 2. The 92, their race is already in there, you're gonna give them additional 2. Now, is that clear as mud?
Call for question.
Okay, call for question, Danny seconded it a few minutes ago, and are we ready to vote? On the amendment. Dealing with salaries.
$17 yes, 2 no, 1 absent.
Okay, all right. So we've got that part taken care
I thought I'd have to do that alone.
of. Okay, now we're back to the budget as amended. Ready? Commissioner Barrett.
We talking about the budget now? Is that where we're at?
Yep, that's where we're at. Okay, all right. That's a good question.
I'm just making sure. Can somebody tell me how much maintenance and effort is going up after we approve this budget?
Early question,
I don't have that figure on me.
Is it going up or?
Yes.
Is it going up? Who's it going up? The sheriff's
Sheriff
department?
Russell.
The 2% for the sheriff's department?
No, his step rate.
Do what?
His step rate.
Oh, the
They
step
got their own pay scale.
You don't know how much it is?
Off the top of my head, about 70, 80,000.
Is that the only department that maintenance and effort's going up there?
well, the school system came down.
That's a whole separate.
I mean, that's a different.
Library didn't change.
Highway department, that's a whole separate thing.
Library.
That's it, just do the sheriff's department. Will it affect the library?
Library didn't get any new money, won't affect the library.
Okay, Mr. Brewer.
I have a question, sure.
Chief Allen's right here.
Sheriff's right behind me.
We're
both here, sir.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
on this maintenance of effort, you may clarify that just a little bit. You saying that that's 70 what?
About 80,000.
80,000? If we vote this budget in, right here, we're gonna have $80,000 maintenance of effort. And we come back next year, and this budget, may not look as good as it does this year. Are you gonna hold our feet to the fire on that $80,000 maintenance of effort?
Absolutely. And here's the reason why, is because you're asking a question that's just not that simple. Going back on y'all's last discussion over the pay scale, yes, our pay scale is different. But what you're not hearing is the reason why we have a pay scale the way it is. You have a step one, is basically like your Q1, that most people get paid to Q3. So you're saving money on our pay scale because you have to work longer to receive the benefits and the more pay. So yes, we'll hold your feet to the fire on that. But you're asking a question that I ain't gonna be able to explain within 2 or 3 sentences. I'm gonna have to go back to showing you pay scales, how all that pay scale stuff works. That's the reason why we didn't go with it. Actually, it saves you money in the long run.
And I appreciate that, Tom. For that reason, I can't vote for this budget because, we cannot afford to increase our maintenance of effort that much, not knowing that we're gonna be able to pay for it again next year.
And I appreciate you looking at the law enforcement, that we come out here and protect you every day, so.
I'm pro law.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, any other discussion? Are we ready to vote? Cast your vote and confirm your vote, please.
Thirteen yes, 6 no, 1 absent.
Wow.
Now. Should I? 2018-0809, introduced by Commissioner Stacy Boston.
And when I get done with this resolution, don't everybody jump up because there is some out of order resolution for us, and then Ms. Kimbrough's in that picture tape. This resolution reference notice public's approval during the August 27, 2018 meeting of the governing body. Sarah Boggs, Ambulance Service of Bristol, Tennessee. Jeanette Edens, Apex Bank, Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Lee F. Burrell, Boyd and Boyd Law Office, Rogersville, Tennessee. Chelsea Graves, First Community Bank, Rogersville, Tennessee. Barry Hudson, Tri-Cities Go, Bluntville, Tennessee. Deborah Hudson, State Volunteer Mutual Insurance, Brentwood, Tennessee. Kathy Johns, PDQ Notary, St. Louis, Missouri. Deborah Lawson, Hawkins County Highway Department, Rogersville, Tennessee. Misty Race, Appalachian Credit Union, Gray, Tennessee. Shirley Roberts, Eastman Credit Union, Kingsport, Tennessee. Megan Taylor, Lung and Sleep Clinic, Rogersville, Tennessee. Becky Weininger, Sam Griffith Insurance Agency, Mount Carmel, Tennessee. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn, second by Commissioner Christian. Any discussion? If there's none, cast your vote and confirm your vote, please.
What? Nineteen yes, 1 absent.
Mr. Vaughn. Okay, I need a motion to suspend the rules, and what this is concerning are the bonds, and Mr. Eric has been scurrying around. We need the bonds to be approved before the new office holders take effect. Mr. Randall Collier was in the hospital because he had to take his bond up there to get him to sign it and notarize. And there's 2 Is there two different?
Make an amendment to attach the constable.
Okay, well, let's get a
I'll make a
motion. Motion by Commissioner Fields to suspend the rules. Have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Christian. Is there any?
Somebody has to, on the machine.
On the machine.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's go. Just suspend the rules. Just good. Yes. I hope so. We want to get everybody bonded and ready to go. Yeah, we got to. Come on, snap out of it. I know you're 66.
19 yes.
Okay, Commissioner Vaughn. We have resolution 2018-0801 out of order resolution introduced by Commissioner Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution in reference to approval of the statutory bonds for the county public officials for terms of office beginning September 1, 2018 and ending August 31st, 2022. Whereas the state of Tennessee requires that certain county public officials hold office statutory bonds in accordance with the provisions of Title 8, Chapter 19, TCA, and whereas the following bonds are required to be approved by County Commission and duly signed and recorded by the applicable official before being filed in the clerk's office. County Clerk Nancy Davis, $100,000. County Mayor Jim Lee, $100,000. Register of Deeds Judy Kirkpatrick, $100,000. Road Superintendent Lowell Bean, $100,000. Sheriff Ronnie Lawson, $100,000. Trustee Jim Shanks, $2,080,000. Clerk of Course Randall Collier, must be approved by the circuit court judge. Constable District 2, Freddie Lee Castle, $8,000. Constable District 1, Bill Creasy, $10,000. Now therefore, be it resolved that the attached statutory bond of the above officials be approved by the Hawkins County Board of Commissioners as required by Tennessee Code Annotated. And as soon as I get a second.
Sorry.
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn, second by Commissioner Christian, and he needs to add a couple more.
There was three, I believe, that came in after they had came over to the clerk's office, and these are for Constable Johnny Lee Drennan, and 6th District Constable for $8,000. Tony Robinson, it's $8,000 also, and is that it?
Frank H. Vaughn.
And Frank Vaughn.
10,000.
10,000. Albert, I would like to. Was it 10,000 on all the constables there? Was it?
No, it was 10,000 on Frank Vaughn, and it was 8,000 on Drennan and Robinson.
Okay, so I had that right.
Yep.
So I'm making an amendment to approving the statutory bonds for the public officials, that these three be included with them.
We have to amend it and then vote on it. Okay, we're voting to amend the original out of order to include these three that we got in late. So are you all going to, Mr. McLean, are you wanting to speak?
No, I did not.
Joe wants to talk about that pay scale.
Okay, now we're gonna vote on the amendment up here to add these three additional people that came over late. They've already acquired the bonds and everything, we just gotta get them on the original out of order resolution. So are we ready to vote? Do we get a second? Yes.
This is on the amendment.
Yeah.
19 is in there.
I hope the battery down.
Okay, now we're back to the out of order resolution. As amended, adding these three additional constables.
You still have to vote out.
What?
Still have to vote out.
Yeah, and then you got to vote to adjourn and then get your photo taken. This is on the original as amended.
Passing everybody. 19 yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
I'll
Okay,
second.
do it on up here and